everyone. Welcome to today's session where we are going to discuss the poem Ecology by A.K. Ramanujan. In the beginning, I would like to give you a brief introduction about the poet. A.K. Ramanujan was an Indian playwright, philologist, folklorist, translator, and a bilingual poet who wrote in Kannada and English both. He was a Padma Shri awardee and he also won the Sahitya Academy Award posthumously in 1999 for his poetry collection, The Collected Poems. And this poem, Ecology, is one of his well known poems, which has been taken from his third volume of poems, Second Sight. Before delving into the poetic analysis of this poem, I wish to draw your attention towards the structure of this poem. If you observe carefully, then you will see that this poem is running like a sentence, or it can be said that this poem can be read as a single sentence because there is no significant pause. This is just a portion, but the whole poem goes thus. So, this is a unique characteristic of this poem related to its construction. Now, let's begin the poem. I'm reading it for you. The day after the first rain, for years, I would come home in a rage, for I could see from a mile away our three red champak trees had done it again, had burst into flower and given mother her first blinding migraine of the season. Now, after reading this, we can say that we have got many things. And let's see one by one. At first, this speaker, who is I, it can be, or the speaker, he can be the poet himself or any imaginary person who is very loyally dedicated to his mother. And here, this word rage is denoting that he is in anger. And he is angry because her mother has a severe attack of migraine. Migraine is a kind of bad headache which can make a person feel blind. And her mother is in excruciating pain due to the migraine, and he is angry. And here, the point to be noted is that this migraine is caused by the flowers of the three red champak trees in their garden. And due to that, poet is upset. So I hope that after getting these pieces of information, if I connect these all pieces of information, I can hope that you can make sense of this opening section. I'm reading it again. The day after the first rain, for years, I would come home in a rage, for I could see from a mile away our three red champak trees had done it again, had burst into flower and given mother her first blinding migraine of the season. And here, this line. This last line of the season is connoting that this occurrence of uh, uh, migraine is annual whenever the flowers are in bloom. Now, the poet is continue in his description of the nuance or nuisance created by this the fragrance, this pungent fragrance, and the poet is saying here that uh, the flowers of the red champak trees releases yellow pollen grains which get suspended in the air and forms a kind of cloud. So here, as you can see, that heavy hung, straight long, and these kind of cloud of the yellow pollen grain spread throughout the street, which stops or prevents the wind to get pure. Wind could shift. Wind also become polluted due to the spread of this yellow pollen grain throughout the street, and uh, which are hanging like clouds. So this first stanza, I hope that it is uh, becoming now sensible, that with their street long, heavy hung yellow pollen fog of a fragrance, no wind could swift. Next, no door could shut out from our black pillared house, whose walls had ears and eyes. Now here the poet is uh, explaining his problem that Even the walls of his house have failed to prevent the strong smell released by the flowers, because this smell uh, comes through the walls inside the home home of the poet. So no door could, when that wall can't the walls can't prevent or can't stop this strong smell entering into the house. No door could shut out from our black pillared house whose walls had ears. Now he's uh, telling that though the walls are able to absorb other voices like scales, smells, bone creaks, nightly visiting voices, and were porous like us. So he's saying that though the walls can absorb sights, smells, bone creaks means the sound produced by the new shoes or other sounds, it can absorb them well, but it become porous in case of the pungent smell of these yellow pollen grains. uh, just porous just like us means human body pores on the human body, just like pores. It seems that walls also uh, are having pores in case of the pollen grains. And it was there when poet decides to cut down the trees, but uh, this decision, when his mother listens his decision of cutting down the trees, she at once becomes angry and she prevents him from doing so. And she also gives her own viewpoint, which we will get to know in the coming stanzas. And in this stanza especially, the poet has described the way his mother becomes angry. But mother flashing her temper, like her mother's twisted silver, grandchildren's knickers, wet as the cold pack on her head, would not let us cut down a flowering tree. Now he is comparing his mother's anger to the twisted silver on which his mother's grandchildren's knickers are getting dried. So her mother's uh, anger is compared to the twisted silver, which also gives a sense that the mother's head has become like twisted silver due to the unbearable pain. And here the grandchildren also probably his mother's grandchildren are probably his own children. So here there is a reference to the family. Like her mother's twisted silver, grandchildren's knickers, wet as the now the wet knickers which are getting dried reminds it these knickers remind the poet of the incessant or uncontrollable sweating from the mother's head or mother's body when she gets this terrible pain of migraine. So just like the these wetness is related to the wetness of the sweating and the trouble uh, on which he uh, experiences or which he witnesses on the mother's body. So wet as the cold pack on her head would not let us cut down a flowering tree. Now, what she says, uh, uh, in order to prevent her son, she says the first one argument which she gives that uh, the tree is as old as she herself, which shows her emotional attachment. And the second one, she says, seeded, she said, by a passing bird's providential droppings. Now she is saying that the seeds of these red champak trees were seeded by a passing bird, which is a sign of a good omen. Providential means fortunate, which is a sign of a good omen. So it shows her belief system, which she believes in. And next one, what she says, to give her goats and her daughters and daughters' daughters basketfuls of annual flower. And these trees provide her. And she gives further argument that the bird which was passing, and the seeds were seeded by the bird, so that she becomes able to have basketfuls of flowers every year, uh, which she can offer to the gods, and to the daughters and daughters, which means uh, every new generation she can offer these flowers. And for one line of cousins, then further she is saying, or she is justifying her all the arguments. And for one line of cousins, a dower of migrants in season. So she is saying that she is aware of the fact that these due to the fragrance of these flowers of red champak trees may cause a terrible pain to one line of cousins, but it is just like a gift, or just like a legacy, that it is a it can become a legacy. This migraine can become a legacy to a one line of cousins. She is aware of the fact, but she then too she is all set, she is all prepared to bear all those all these pains, all these the pain of all the pains of the migraine, of these many migraines every season, every summer season especially. So this is what the poem is. And uh, before wrapping up this lecture, I would like to highlight the major themes incorporated by Ramanujan in this poem. And the first is generation gap. And throughout the whole poem, uh, we can very well observe that Ramanujan is trying to showcase us two very different views, or he wants to showcase us, or shows us the difference between the views of the generation, the old generation represented by poet's mother, and the poet himself is the representative of the new generation. And when uh, her mother's attitude shows that the old people are very much attached to ecology through their memories, emotions, and belief system. For her mother, we can see that the tree is not just a tree; it is a sign of good omen, and it is as old as she herself. And it is a sign of good omen. It is also the provider of the many flowers which she can offer to goats and her daughters. So this is what the attitude of the old generation, or the mother. Whereas for the poet, the trees are of no use, because along with polluting the air, they are also the cause of the severe migraine uh, from which his mother is suffering. And along with this generation gap, uh, the poem is also echoing the very message of ecological sensitivity. And again, we are witnessing the two very different viewpoints of anthropocentrism represented by the poet, and ecocentrism portrayed by the mother. Centrism is a human-centric approach, which a poet is uh, presenting or telling, and ecocentrism is an ecocentric or nature centric value system, where the poet's mother stands. Next is family. And in this through this poem, the poet is also depicting his strong interest in the family, as he is uh, bringing the pictures of his family, especially his mother, who is self-sacrificing. And then we have also a special reference to Hindu heritage, when he mentions about the gods and the ancient customs and traditions. So that's all for today. I look forward to see you in the next lecture. Thank you for your attention.